Today is Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. This is the 47 Daily Podcast. My name is Mark Kaye, and it is Donald Trump's party now. At least that's according to CNN, who's finally come to the realization that it's Donald Trump's Republican Party and nobody else's. We were there a long time ago. We knew that months ago, but CNN finally put some polls in the field, and they came back with this. Realization.
It's Donald Trump's party, and his GOP opponents can cry if they want to borrow some words from Leslie Gore. Look, GOP voted to impeach or convict Trump. You go back to January, February 2021, it was 17 Republicans. They're adios amigos, goodbye, see you later for the most part. Now, just five of them remain in Congress, just 2 in the House, 3 in the Senate. The bottom line is this: Trump had a big control over the Republican Party before, but now it is even stronger. There are very few folks who dislike Donald Trump on the Republican side who are still in the United States Congress. He should be able to ram through legislation, at least on the ones in which he just needs Republican votes.
Very exciting for President Donald Trump as he heads back to Washington, D.C. in about 30 some odd days to put his hand on the Bible, swear the oath of office, and then get right back to work. And while CNN is correct that Donald Trump is in command of the party and that the majority of people in the House and the Senate are now loyal to Donald Trump and share his vision for making America great again and will, knock on wood, hopefully vote in a way that will showcase their desire to help Donald Trump make America great again, especially with some of those nominations that are first and foremost on the agenda, because Donald Trump needs to hit the ground running with the cabinet and with the administration that he deems fit. But he also has a lot of help on the left, too, as we've seen with Silicon Valley titans who continue to flood into the White House. The latest being Tim Cook from Apple, joining the ranks of Elon Musk, of course, and Mark Zuckerberg, all of whom want to be an active part of Donald Trump's technological plan for the next 4 years, because if you're not an active part, you're an inactive outsider, and nobody wants to be an inactive outsider in Donald Trump's world. And that includes some of the most powerful computer minds and industrial minds from Silicon Valley and California. More on that in just a minute, because Donald Trump yesterday held a press conference, which was one of the first live press events he's had in a while, where he took questions from the media, and you could tell he was excited to be back in front of the camera, excited to be fielding questions from the news people. He was excited to. It was half rally, half press conference, but he had this comfortable kind of confidence. He knew all the answers to the questions, and he was ready and in control of the press and the briefing, and he was calm and he was cool and he was collected, and no matter what they asked him, he was ready for it. This, of course, was all because of Masa Son, the CEO of SoftBank, who was in the United States of America to announce at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump that he will be making a $100 billion investment in American technology and AI infrastructure. $100 billion. And that is a direct result of Donald Trump winning the presidency. And in true Donald Trump fashion, he tried to negotiate for more money right on the spot.
I'm excited to go, and we were discussing, and President Trump said, Masa, double down is not enough. Maybe, go for more, right?
That's what I'm going to ask him right now. Would you make it $200 billion instead of He can actually, believe it or not, he can actually afford to do that. Would you do that?
Well, my promise is 100, but, he's now asking to do more. I think, with your leadership, my partnership with you, with your support, I will try to make it happen.
That's good.
All right.
200. He'll make it happen. 200 billion investment.
There you go. So now we've turned 200 billion into 100 billion rather into 200 billion, just like that. And when Donald Trump asks you for something and you're there, you have a tendency to want to make it happen. That wasn't the only billionaire investor that Donald Trump has hosted at Mar-a-Lago. As we mentioned, Apple's Tim Cook was there. And one of the reporters asked about dinner with Tim Cook and how well it went. And Donald Trump gave an answer, I think, that was poignant on many levels about his relationship now with some of these liberal, left-wing socialist tyrants from Silicon Valley.
I did have dinner with Tim Cook. I had dinner with sort of almost all of them, and the rest are coming. And this is one of the big differences, I think, between, we were talking about it before,
one of the big differences between the first term, in the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something, but
I don't think it was a personality change. I think it was I think it was the realization that the United States of America supports President Trump more than they support any other single politician in maybe the last 100 years. And that the company has shifted, and that if these corporations and these entities and these social media outlets and these titans of industry who have been found guilty of censorship and cancellation and doxing and everything else, if they want to come along for the ride, if they want a seat at the table, then what they have to do is they have to realize, as CNN did, that this is Donald Trump's party. Not just his party, but right now it's his country, because the Republicans have control of the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. The Doge caucus, led by Elon Musk, is about to run rampant through Congress and cut any unintentional or unnecessary spending. And that could, of course, include a lot of government contracts that are headed toward California, Silicon Valley, and Apple. So now everybody is interested in being President Donald Trump's friend. He was also asked questions about the various immigration plans and agendas that he ran on, one of which being the massive deportation effort. We're going to take all these illegal criminals, the drug dealers, the gang members, the murderers, all of them are going to go back from whence they came. We're going to put Tom Homan in charge of it, and nobody, not even an elected mayor or governor of a Democrat blue city or state, is going to stand in my way without suffering the consequences. You want to go to jail? We got plenty of jails, and we don't care who you are. We'll put you right in there if you get in our way. And one of the questions was about Venezuela, the home of El Tren de Naragona, which is, of course, the murderous, thuggish gang that has taken over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado, and other places. And here's what Donald Trump said about Venezuela and what's going to happen when their illegal immigrants show up back at their doorstep.
With in terms of your mass deportation plans, have you had any preliminary discussions with countries like Venezuela, from where the Tren de Aragua gang is now popping up?
They'll take them back.
They're going to take them back.
They're all taking them back. Yep. And if they don't, they'll be met very harshly economically. Okay, they'll all take them back. You know, Venezuela and other countries were not behaving very well with us during my administration, and within 24 hours, they were behaving very well.
Yeah, Venezuela's ready to take them back because they have a choice to make. It's either take back all of the criminals that you sent here anyway. You emptied your prisons, you emptied your jails, you probably helped, aided, and abetted them getting into Mexico and across the border in the United States. You can take all those people back, or there'll be zero economic benefit to you. There'll be no money coming from the United States of America. We're not going to buy any of your oil or anything. We're going to put the pressure on all of our allies who are buying oil from you, and you will basically go bankrupt the way that President Trump was able to bankrupt Iran in his first term. The Iran plan to bankrupt the country and turn them into a poverty-stricken wasteland, that's exactly what would happen to Venezuela, and they can't have that. So they will gladly take back their criminal element, put them back in the prisons, and they will continue to receive financial benefit from the United States of America. Then there came the wall. Now, in recent weeks, we've heard very damaging and disturbing reports that President Biden has been selling off large sections of steel or large portions of steel that are meant to be used for the border wall. And this is steel that really has been sitting there ever since Joe Biden came to office and ceased construction on the wall. The steel's just been laying there, sitting there. Now, knowing that President Trump is coming back to office and knowing that one of his premier promises to the American people was to re-begin construction on the wall, make sure that our border is secure and safe, knowing full well that that is the will of the American people who voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump, Joe Biden is now selling off all of that material for pennies on the dollar. And Donald Trump wants everybody to know how he feels about Joe Biden doing that.
The administration is trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, knowing that we're getting ready to put it up. And what they're doing is really an act. It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it, and if we don't have it, we're going to have to rebuild it, and it'll cost double what it cost years ago, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars, because you're talking about a lot of wall. I built much more than I said I was going to build, but then after it was built, I said, you know, we can do some more, because it's sort of like water, people flow through.
And that will pretty much really take care of it. And what happened is they just, as you see, they're trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. And that's really, that has nothing to do with a smooth transition. That has to do with people really trying to stop our nation. And all it means really is that we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars more, not even talking about the time. Time would be pretty long. But we'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars more on building the same wall that we already have.
And that is really a travesty. It's a dereliction of duty. If Joe Biden knows that the wall is going to be built, if he knows that the construction of the wall is going to be imminent after January 20th, if he knows that those materials are going to be put to use, and he sells them cheaply, knowing full well that President Trump is just going to spend American tax dollars buying it all back after he returns to office, that is, I don't know if it's overtly criminal, but the sense behind it or the meaning behind it is truly a criminal act. That is Joe Biden forcing the American taxpayers to pay way more money for stuff that they already had. And yes, it's a dig at Donald Trump, or it's a dig at the voters who voted against Kamala Harris's hand-chosen successor. Either way, it is something that a true president, a true leader would never do. Joe Biden and his administration very spiteful, and they're making the American people pay for their decision to replace the Democrats with Donald Trump and the new Republican Party. Speaking of replacing Donald Trump and the new Republican Party, don't forget that Donald Trump does have some Democrats in his corner. One of them is RFK Jr., who is going to be the new Secretary of Health and Human Services should he get through the Senate confirmation process. And the Senate confirmation process requires lots of meetings with senators, and RFK Jr. arrived on Capitol Hill yesterday to begin those meetings and discuss certain things with certain senators. Many senators on both sides of the aisle, by the way, have already shown support for RFK Jr. Bernie Sanders is a big fan of some of RFK Jr.'s ideas and philosophies and political leanings, and I have a feeling would easily support the confirmation of someone like RFK Jr. It's very interesting. I can't remember the last time that a Republican president has chosen a Democrat for their cabinet, but you would think that of all the candidates, President Trump supporting RFK Jr., a Democrat, would show no problem with the confirmation process. And if any of his candidates were to receive bipartisan confirmation, I would think it would be RFK Jr. However, there's nothing's ever that easy, is it? And Donald Trump knows that. And the reporters asked about RFK Jr. and what are Donald Trump's plans with RFK Jr. as Health and Human Services Director exactly?
Do you want RFK Jr. to revoke any vaccines?
No, I want him to come back with a report as to what he thinks. We're going to find out a lot. We're doing two things. We're going to have tremendous cost savings will come out of this. That's a minimum. And we're also going to have, and I think, very serious discussions about certain things, whether it's pesticides. Europe doesn't use pesticides, and yet they have a better mortality rate than we do. They don't use pesticides. In fact, they use it as an excuse not to take our farm product. We spend billions and billions of dollars on pesticides. And something bad's happening. Again, you take a look at autism today versus 20, 25 years ago. It's like not even believable. So we're going to have reports. No, nothing's going to happen very quickly. I think you're going to find that Bobby he's a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing. You're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen. I saw what happened with the polio. I have friends that were very much affected by that. I have friends from many years ago, and they have obviously they're still in not such good shape because of it. And many people died. And the moment they took that vaccine, it ended. Dr. Jonas Salk did a great job. So I don't anticipate that at all.
Donald Trump doubling down on the idea that he's not anti-vaccine, but he is going to allow RFK Jr. the ability and the room to move around and discover what he needs to discover and investigate what he needs to investigate. And basically, do the job of the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I'm not pro-vaccine, anti-vaccine. I think the polio vaccine was a gift from God. It was a miraculous thing, but not all vaccines are built equally. And RFK Jr. is somebody that has a lot of knowledge and a lot of desire in finding out the truth. And he's written books on the subject, The Real Dr. Fauci, which is it's on my holiday reading list for sure. It's a big book. It's a big one. the real Anthony Fauci. It's going to take some time. It's a lot of pages and it's very small writing, but it's definitely something that I'm going to get through, hopefully before the confirmation is complete. But look, RFK Jr. is hired by Donald Trump to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And that requires, Donald Trump's he's not a micromanager. He hires the right people, the best people for the job. He puts them in place and then he leaves them alone to do their work. And as long as they're doing their work, as long as they're doing what they promised him they would do, then he's fine with it. And so he's going to let RFK Jr. make those decisions on vaccines and which ones are good and which ones maybe require a little bit more investigation and testing before they're unleashed on the public. Speaking of being unleashed, Donald Trump, on the heels of his $15 million settlement with ABC and George Snuffleupagus for the incorrect statements he made about the E. Jean Carroll case, which now have cost the network $15 million in an escrow account for the Trump library and $1 million in legal fees. Now Donald Trump is going after other media outlets that he feels abused their power, used their power to benefit the Democrats and attack him in the election and basically interfere in the election. And election interference was another big pillar in Donald Trump's campaign. He said, we're going to root out election interference. We're going to make sure that elections are free and fair. And that doesn't just mean at the polling locations. That doesn't just mean where they're counting the ballots. That means that media coverage, the media has to be free and fair, and they have to be unbiased representatives of both candidates. They can't use their tools, their weapons, their polling information to unfairly try and sway public opinion. That's not what the media is for. But in Des Moines, with the Des Moines Register, and with this Ann Seltzer poll, which came out of nowhere and made international news because Donald Trump supposedly was way behind Kamala Harris, which nobody believed, by the way. Donald Trump now says, you know what, we're filing a lawsuit against them because what they did was try to interfere in the election.
And then she brought it down very smartly to 4 a couple of weeks before. And everyone said, wow, that's amazing. He's only up by 4 points. Then she brought it down to where it was down by 3 or 4, whatever number she used. And that was the Des Moines Register. And it was their parent. And in my opinion, it was fraud and it was election interference. She's gotten me right always. She's a very good pollster. She knows what she was doing. And she then quit before. And we'll probably be filing a major lawsuit against them today or tomorrow. We're filing one on 60 Minutes, you know about that, where they took Kamala's answer, which was a crazy answer, a horrible answer, and they took the whole answer out and they replaced it with something else she said later on.
Yeah, and that's just a long line in lawsuits that Donald Trump is planning. Again, not because he needs money, not because he wants cash, not because he thinks that, this is an easy way for him to retire. It's because there's a lot of election interference going on in the media, and they mask it as reporting. They mask it as information. They mask it as journalism. But really, it's nothing of the sort. The Ann Seltzer poll, a perfect example of that. 60 Minutes editing Kamala Harris's answers to make them look less ridiculous, less unintelligent, and less basically just flat out gibberishy. Is another example of that. And Donald Trump says you can't do that. As a media outlet, you have the trust of the people, and the people have placed their trust in you, and you can't defraud them this way. You can't make them think that one candidate is way behind in a poll when you know full well that they're not. You can't make them believe that one candidate answered a question one way when clearly she did not, especially that close to an election. So he's going to make sure he's going to nip that in the bud, and that's what these lawsuits are for. Not for financial gain, but for election integrity. And finally, Donald Trump was asked a question about what's on everybody's mind, and that is the drones.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you
Wanna
shoot
know
them
the
down?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Of course, he has received an intelligence briefing on the drones, and of course, he's not going to comment on that because people in Donald Trump's position don't comment on top secret intelligence briefings. President Donald Trump saying, look, they know what the drones are. The government knows what the drones are. I'm not going to Bedminster. And fun fact, there was an internet video at Bedminster Golf Course, country club, where a drone was hovering around and just disappeared. Donald Trump, I think, again, is in the know. The president-elect knows exactly what the president knows about all measures and matters of national security. And these drones are clearly a measure and matter of national security. But President Trump saying they know they're keeping it from the American people. I'm not sure why they would do that. Shows once again the difference between these two presidents. Joe Biden is a member of the deep state, keeps his power close to the vest. Everybody he works with says we're going to work in the shadows. Donald Trump knows it's a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and he's going to bring the government out of the shadows. And the people who elected him to office overwhelmingly are going to be part of and privy to the inner workings of the government of the United States of America. One last comment. Donald Trump has single-handedly destroyed Canada. He's overthrown Canada, and he's destroyed Justin Trudeau's career, which, Justin Trudeau, look, let's face it, had a lot to do with it. Donald Trump posted on Truth Social yesterday, the great state of Canada, which, by the way, I'm so glad he's rolling with that joke. I'd be very upset if Donald Trump dropped the state of Canada joke. The great state of Canada is stunned as the finance minister resigns or was fired from her position by Governor Justin Trudeau. Her behavior was really toxic and not at all conducive to making deals, which are good for the very unhappy citizens of Canada. She will not be missed. Now, it's true, there is mass chaos and havoc being wreaked right now in Canada, and several people are calling for an election. In fact, on the floor of Parliament, or whatever they call it up there, there were active calls, not just by Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition, but by members of Justin Trudeau's own party.
This is as serious as it gets. The finance minister quit hours before she was supposed to do this, and she doesn't have confidence in this prime minister. No one does. This man is a disgrace, and we need an election now.
And it appears that Justin Trudeau is now on the brink, and that Justin Trudeau, the governor of the great state of Canada, will be resigning, if not today, very quickly. And he'll have to call an election over the holiday. Now, there's a lot more to this story, and I will cover that all later today in Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, my second daily podcast, which if you don't yet listen to, you should, because it's a daily commentary podcast, not just on news coming out of the Trump campaign and the Trump transition, but news from all over the globe, commentary and interviews. It's hilarious. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's exciting. It's daily, and it's free. So wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes or Spotify or iHeart or anywhere else, make sure you search for Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. It's live every day at noon Eastern, 11 Central, and it's placed in the podcast consortium so that you can download it at your leisure. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Listen or download first, listen, and enjoy.